All right, I'm here with Cai in Puerto Rico, and today we're going to be talking about you. So, do you want to? What do you want to talk about today? Anything and everything, or anything you feel like talking about today?
Thanks for having me, Frank. Well, we can talk about a couple of things. We can start with the purpose of this podcast, which is the root causes of suffering and what's going on in the world in regards to psychiatry, in regards to brain damage as well, that are causing these mental disorders, at least for my experience, on what I've seen, on what I felt, that have caused me certain problems, big problems in my life. But yeah, talking about that process, right? Since childhood, right? You're affected on an emotional state, on a mental state, since traumatic experience that you've been through, and certain. I also want to mention like nutritional deficiencies is also a big topic for me, and also the spirit, because at the end of the day, when people say mind, body, spirit, there's a correlation, I think, to many problems that are going on in the world. And I think that maybe one of the greatest purpose of this podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, brother, that's around those topics I would like to talk about,
Okay,
if it's okay with you.
for sure. This sounds good to me.
All right.
I guess then I'd like to ask you, where do you want to start talking? Do you want to share about your life or things that happened to you, or one of these topics like mind, body, spirit that you alluded to, or where do you want to start talking?
Well, I would like to start talking about my story.
Okay.
I would like to make my long story short, and then we can go into the details, and maybe how this can correlate to your own experience as well.
Sure.
But yeah, that's mostly where I would like to start. So basically, the other day I had a session with a hypnotherapist, right? I hired this hypnotherapist because by hypnosis, he wanted me to quit weed. He was helping me to quit smoking weed. I had a very, very bad vice with smoking weed, which is, we're gonna get into more details with it, but it's correlated to many problems that I'm experiencing today.
Can I ask,
Yes.
did you decide to visit this hypnotherapist, and if so, why?
Yes, I searched it online, like communities around quitting weed, and I found this guy that helped you quit by hypnotherapy. Yes.
So you wanted to quit weed, and that's why you search for ways to quit weed, and like
Precisely. Yes.
that's what happened, and then you found a hypnotherapist who is someone who is online stated, well, how people quit weed. Then you went to the hypnotherapist. Am I getting that correct?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. And I mentioned that story because the best session we had, in which I went very profound into this hypnosis state, the first time that I felt emotional chaos in my life and suffering was in my mother's womb. I traveled through different experiences that I had between my childhood, teenage years, but I ended up in my mother's womb. And the emotions that I felt was mostly like stress, a lot of restlessness. And I can see that too because I felt that today. I'm familiar with that feeling, and it's very uncomfortable. I can define it as that. It's just stress, emotional chaos, restlessness, uncomfort. As a product of those emotions, I was just growing up. I don't have my childhood completely cleared. I'm working that with a current hypnotherapist that I have, which are working on EMDR, trauma-like therapies. But I have very clear about how was my personality, how was I? And I was very hyperactive. Like I can remember 4 years old, extremely hyperactive. Since I was a baby, I felt like I was suffering a lot because I cried, but I cried to the point that my parents had to leave the restaurant. Or everyone in the restaurant, like let's say me with my parents, we went into a restaurant, everything was fine, and then I started crying. The sound and the frequency of my cry was so loud that everybody in the restaurant was just looking at us, very uncomfortable, you know. And since that being said, I had some sort of suffering. Something was going on because it wasn't normal. It was this kind of hyperactivity that it wasn't normal.
Can I ask around what age this was? The crying in restaurants and stuff.
The issue, sorry.
Yeah. So you're talking about that you were crying in restaurants when
Yes.
you went there with your parents.
Yes.
Do you know around what age this was? How old were you?
Yes, I would say since I was, let's say in my early development, first months old to 4 years. I'm in
Okay.
this timeline.
Okay.
My crying felt different than, for example, my brother's crying. I have a little brother, and he wasn't as hyperactive as I was. His crying was different. Like the sound of it, like mine was very, very annoying, very difficult to handle. I was a difficult kid to handle.
From whose perspective, though?
Sorry?
From whose perspective?
From my parents.
Okay.
And that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good to clarify.
Yes, definitely. So let's say 4 years old, right? Problematic kid. Let's say for 4 years old, 6 years old, I had certain trips, right? I've had the privilege to be in on a fortunate family, right, financially, and we've been traveling the world since I've been traveling the world since a very young age. Right now, talking to you, I had this feeling that I had been familiarizing with my family. The relationship with my family has been complicated since I was very small, since this 4 to 6 year old period. Like how I was perceiving the relationship with my parents, with my family in general, with my uncles. I can see the effect today on how I relate to them, and very uncomfortable and even suppressed emotions were born from those early years of development. How my family saw me, because I was such a hyperactive kid, there was a lot of judgment in my family, a lot of judgment. And that correlates on what's going on today with society in general. There's a lot of judgment.
Well, before you go into that, can I ask how you feel about using the word energetic instead of hyperactive to describe early you? It's up to you how you describe yourself, but
that is a very good comment, and I appreciate those comments because they help me see things from another perspective.
yeah.
From another perspective.
So the word hyperactive, it's like I think it has negative connotations for one because of its association to what psychiatry tells the world is a disease and what many people think is a disease.
Yes.
So
It's like a
hyperactive
label.
has negative connotations, and even if you look at the word very literally, it's like hyper. Like I don't know. Either way, the word has negative correlation, negative connotations, and I think energetic is like a more positive or even neutral word to describe that, and so that's why I brought it
No,
up.
and realistical is a very good way to see it. Yes, I appreciate that. So yeah, I was a very energetic kid, definitely, and yeah, from the period of 4 to 6 years, I would say that as I develop this relationship with my family, as I start just seeing the world, just following the example of my parents, of people, I experienced a lot of judgment, a lot of negativity in my thought experience. I don't want to label emotions as negative, but I would say a more uncomfortable, right, experience that I had since a very young age in relationship to my family. I remember, fast forward, it was like 8 years old. My first experience with a girl. A lot of resentment.
Sorry, did you say 8 years old?
Let's say yes, somewhat 8 years old. And I remember just looking at this beautiful woman, and I remember feeling all of a sudden a lot of fear. And after I was feeling a lot of fear, I felt like very scared to approach this woman and talk to her. And the other kids that were there, because it was like in a playground, the other kids that were there, they were like talking to her, just like being kids, and I was feeling jealous. I was feeling like I don't want the kids to talk to her. I want to talk to her. And after that, I think I just finished just leaving the situation. But I remembered like being on the car on my way home, just fantasizing with the pleasure of like, man, if I would have had this, if I would have approached her, if we would have had some kind of relationship, some kind of interaction, just feeling so much pleasure and just fantasizing. And yeah, I mentioned that because today I can feel that same fear that I have for women. I can feel that same fear, that same energy that I have for women. And during that period, still in this period of 4 to 8 years, I have certain memories. I have a lot of resentments with my mother. My mother was like, until today, I heard on your podcast that you thought that if your mother would have been dead, you would have been okay with it. Am I right? Or am I a little misleading?
I mean, that might even be a nice thing to like. I think I wouldn't, like, again, as I described, right after I moved out to live by myself, thought, how would I feel or how would I react if I don't refer to her as my mother, but Jenny, if she were to die,
Yes.
I would be like, like no reaction, more or less.
Yes.
So yeah, close enough.
I resonated with that. I definitely resonated with that. I thought it to myself. And till this day, till the other day, I had an experience with her with a lot of anger. And I said to her that she was a stupid fucking bitch. Right?
You told her this when you were between 4 and 8?
No, sorry. It's just like, I'm just correlating the feelings that I was feeling between 4 and 8 to today, to what I experienced today. And the other day, I called her a stupid,
Okay.
fucking dumb bitch.
Based on your
Based on
experiences with her when you were
exactly
between 4 and 8.
based on the resentment that I have between that childhood period, and yes,
Ask, are you able to go into more detail about where the resentment comes from?
yes.
And do you want to, of course?
Yes. No, I was going on to that. So the first thing and the most clearest thing that I remember is that since I was a very energetic kid, since I cried a lot, very loud, we were on a period in which financially it was a very stressful period, right? And she had to go with me in the car towards work, and the city that I was staying in was an hour away from her work, so she had to go to her work and on her way back with me, right? Since I cried so much, she had, like, this is how she managed the situation. She turned the volume of the music like as loud as she can, max volume, in the entire ride, while I was just screaming with pain, and this was every day. Pain, a lot of pain. And I felt abandonment. I felt not being loved, not being understood, not being heard. Those feelings, it's gotta be such simple things. It doesn't need to be like very huge traumatic experiences to feel those uncomfortable emotions today. And it's also the way that you perceive things, right? At that moment, how you process your emotions. So at that moment, I was just a child and I was suffering. I didn't process that emotional experience well at that time, and I felt those kind of feelings. And yeah, if I remember any other detail during our conversation, I will go back and mention it. It's just that I don't have them as clear as right now. I expected to have them, but yeah, after this period of 4 and 8 years, let's say, yeah, I lived a pretty regular life. I remember going to school and being very fearful as well. I was in second grade, going to this new school, and I sat on the back of the class, right? And I was crying as well. Not crying super out loud, but I was crying. I was very, very fearful of the people around me, of like fitting into a new environment, new people. It was a very uncomfortable experience. And I also remember before that, I was in a daycare, and in this daycare, I was very aggressive. For some reason, I was very aggressive. I had these moments in which I've been very aggressive in my life, and I bit like a kid like 3 times one day, like bit very, very hard, to the point that his parents wanted the daycare to kick me out, like, kick me out of there because I was out of control. And yeah, I was in school, at first, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, I wasn't fitting in with the cool kids, right? I wasn't. There was a division. There was the cool kids, right, and there were the ones that, weren't so cool. The ones that were into video games, or the ones that were into anime. That obviously is just a label for what is cool and what is not, a societal label, at least where I'm from here in Puerto Rico. And I remember seeing these cool kids, and I felt a lot of fear as well. A lot of fear. And let's say like at fourth, fifth grade, sixth, or maybe seventh, I started developing a relationship with them. I developed a relationship with one of them, then I connected with two of them, and I remember the day that I was just like the center of attention, right? I was like between all the group, and it felt so pleasurable. It felt so nice. Like that day officially, I was one of the cool kids, and I abandoned the group of the non-cool kids, which I used to hang out with, right? And yeah, those moments felt very pleasurable, very pleasurable. I just started going out. I started drinking.
How old was this?
Well, let's say like 14. Yes,
Okay.
14 years old.
Like, is underage drinking common in Puerto Rico?
Very, very common.
Okay.
Yes, very common.
Just looking to provide some context.
Yes,
So
definitely.
in some countries, if you're drinking at 14, it's like there's something going on, but
Yes,
Puerto Rico, it's common.
yes, it is. It
Can I
is.
say one other thing before you continue?
Yes.
I just feel like I have to comment on. I mean, it's hard to put into words, but like your mother putting on the
Mhm.
like the music loud as her child is crying in the car. It's like I personally I can't even understand how anyone could be so cruel, because it's just I don't know what else to say about it, but I had to say something. To me, that's just really disgusting. I'm
Yes.
sorry that was done to you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. It was, yes, it provoked a lot. It was an emotional experience that impacted me a lot. And yeah, just now as you were talking, I remembered in the same line of developing a relationship with my family. I had a little brother, and I have a little brother, and we used to fight a lot, right? It's common that you and your little brother fight a lot. I don't know if that's okay, right?
Yeah. It's
Okay. Okay.
Just an antivirus pop up on my computer.
All right. Okay.
No worries.
Okay. And yeah, I used to fight with him a lot, and I used to be cruel as well, right? I used to be a little hothead as well. I was problematic. With my brother, I used to like hit him a lot, and maybe like we were just fighting with lightsabers and stuff, and then I hit him like very very intentionally, like in the face, and then he would go crying to my parents, and he would say like, my brother hit me, and I would say like, no, he's lying, I didn't hit him, it was completely mistaken. And that resentment that my brother developed because of my actions, it definitely reflects on my relationship with him today. I have a great relationship with him today, but it's just like mentioning how your childhood really impacts a lot of your reality, your beliefs, your emotions today, you know. So
Can I
yes.
comment on that and say, I mean, obviously, I think you probably know that, you know, that's not nice to do that to your brother,
Definitely.
especially the lying part. And have you ever talked to him about that or apologized to him for that?
Yes, I haven't apologized very genuinely for him to that. I will definitely do that. Yes, I will definitely do that. I really care for him. I really, really love him. That's like one of the most important relationships in my life, if not the most important in the like my family wise, you know.
Yeah, might be worth talking to him about and see how he feels about that. And
definitely.
possibly apologizing.
Yes, definitely. Yes, because yes, I felt that the other day. We had a trip on mushrooms, and there was a point in which we were like enjoying it a lot. It was like our first time having a huge trip, and at one point, you know, when you do mushrooms, your ego, it goes somewhere else, but you, like, your ego just goes out of the picture, right? And I think it really activates your subconscious mind. All right, like certain emotions, certain thoughts, certain things that come from your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind, right? And he was yelling at me, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up," at one point. And I was like I felt peaceful because I was on a trip, but man, afterwards, like when I process it, I think it was correlated to this behavior that I had with him. And I think since I was hurt internally, I wanted to hurt others. Since I was hurt internally and I wasn't dealing with it correctly, I wanted to hurt others. And that's why I just picked on him.
Yeah, I think that's very common. It
Yes.
still doesn't excuse your action, but it is.
Yes.
It is. I think many people do that. I think it's a big problem in the world too.
Definitely. Yes. Yes. And another thing, another memory that just popped off, bullying. Man, I was bullied like in second grade when I arrived at school. I was bullied because you had red hair and you're energetic and you're weird. And that's also one of the experiences that I developed the wrong relationship with society. The way that I perceived it was just erroneous, because I was very hurt, but I wasn't. I couldn't. I obviously I was a little kid. I didn't have the intellect to comprehend that the other person was the one that was incredibly insecure. The other person was the one that was hurt, so he needed to hurt others.
Yeah,
right?
It's super common, I think.
Yes, I let myself be bullied. I let myself be offended, right? Of the way that I process things. And when I say that is I let myself be offended, is that if I'm being bullied today, if I would be bullied today, which I've been. For example, the other day, I was on the street and this truck of trash passed by, and people here can be very, very vulgar. And there were these two guys just hanging on the back of the truck, and it was very, very it smelled very, very horrible. And I just did like this. Right? I didn't want to smell that, and they saw me, and they told me like, "You son of a bitch! It smells bad, right? It smells bad, right? Son of a bitch!" Like very, very with a lot of, with a lot of anger, and yeah, those emotions sparked up, those remembrance, the thoughts of how I've been bullied in the past. But brother, it's like at the end of the day, how can, even though if you have this uncomfortable emotional experience, how can you possibly be offended by society, by people like that? Like people, like, and not, obviously not from a point of judgment of hey, they have a job as a trash, how do you say it, like a trash? Yeah, you want to say something?
I was gonna say, maybe, or suggest you to refocus a little bit, because you were talking about, I think I should have gone to high school. I think it sounded
Yes,
like
I did.
Around age 14 with the drinking part.
Yes.
And then got a bit sidetracked, I think.
I
on
did.
various topics, which
Thank
is
you.
okay, but
Yes.
This is also my first episode with a guest, so I'm still learning. I should have maybe pulled you back a little earlier, but my suggestion is to maybe stick to your own story first, and after
We get into details.
bit
Yeah,
more
no,
focus.
it is my first podcast episode as well, so I'm I'm learning as well. But let's get back to the story. Yeah, to the time that I was bullied, right? I felt hurt, very hurt for these experiences that I've mentioned. And fast forward, I started hanging with the cool kids, like I was mentioning, right?
Yes.
And since I started drinking, right, I was at home and I started just stimulating myself with alcohol my parents had there, and I started drinking alone, and yeah, man, just numbing the pain, right? The pain that I felt, the emotional confusion and chaos. Then I started smoking weed, right? I started robbing from my parents' closets. Just one day I was just curious, and I started searching my parents' closet, and I just saw this oil, right? This cartridge.
So around that time, you started hanging out with cool kids, and you started drinking around this time, and started smoking weed. Do you know, or do you have any guess what the reason is that you started using these substances?
Yes.
Oftentimes, people use substances to escape from something that bothers them.
You know, the pain that I mentioned of the hypnosis therapy session that I had, those stressful like emotions, those restless emotions. Since this hypnotherapist was helping me quit weed, we navigated onto that experience because that experience is correlated to the first time that I picked up. You know, so I picked up because I was feeling that pain and I wanted to numb it. Yeah.
So there was a pain you wanted to numb. Do you know, you may or may not, but do you know where the pain originates from?
So since I traveled to my mother's womb, and I appreciate that question because earlier in my childhood, I commented, and this is an important detail, I commented on how my parents were struggling financially. My parents were not only struggling financially to pay all their bills, but they were struggling with their marriage. When I was in the womb, I had to experience the emotional experience that my mother had. I had to experience the perhaps trauma, the emotion that my mother never worked on because she was never taught, she was never told that she should work with these things. So I think that got connected to the way that it influenced my own emotional state since I was in that womb. And basically my mother thought that my father was with other women when in truth he was just working late nights because we were financially struggling. And yeah, that's an important detail because with his finances, you know, work, relationships, it's one of the root causes of a lot of suffering today. And so to continue with, yes,
I'd like to comment on that and say that for anyone out there who finds that maybe hard to believe, like when two people interact, have a connection, like a boyfriend and girlfriend, they like are emotionally connected and have on an emotional level influence each other. So a mother that has especially like a super sensitive and vulnerable child in her womb, I think it's, hard to deny that a mother is, also a mother who's drinking and smoking and stress. I think they say stress can influence pregnancy. So I think like anyone who would even deny the possibility of what you just experienced, I think they're like just trying their best to deny something that is, I think, incredibly hard to deny. So
yes, totally in agreement with that. And yes, to continue with the story, I started smoking weed, right? And yeah, I just started numbing the pain, hanging out with the cool kids, feeling all this pleasure, finding all this pleasure in earthly things, right? My spirit broken, my emotions broken, everything. And then after those moments, quarantine arrived here in Puerto Rico and in the world, right? But here, when it arrived, I started smoking, not weed. I started smoking very synthetic stuff. Like I just started getting these oils from dealers that probably got that stuff from the black market, and I started just cooking myself up, cooking my brain up every day. Like I just went in the morning and I had a massive hit, and massive hits, and FaceTiming with these people at the same time, which were smoking with me, and
So, like the people you were buying from, you were FaceTiming with.
no, sorry. Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
the cool
explain myself.
kids.
The cool kids.
Okay, got it.
Exactly. The cool kids. I was smoking with them, and one day my mental health got very, very horrible. My physical health, mental health was horrible, and it started to reflect on my state, on how I was feeling, and my parents noticed that, and they found out that I started, and that I was cooking myself in my room, cooking my brain, and that's the first
Just
time.
checking in how this was around quarantine.
This was
COVID
around
time,
like
how
17 years old.
17 years old. Okay.
Yes, I went to rehab, right? I went to rehab for the first time.
Like, can you talk about why and how that came about? Was it
Yes.
entirely you who came up with that, or?
No, basically, since my parents found out that I was smoking, and after months of smoking a lot with my friends on FaceTime and just smoking by myself, then my parents wanted me, like they forced me to go to rehab. Like it was not voluntary. They really wanted me to go to rehab, and at the end of the day, I just accepted it because I acknowledged that I was not good. I was not okay. So I went to rehab. It was short rehab. It was like 5 days. I didn't stay there. It was like a course, let's say, day and evening. After that, I stayed like 6 months clean. I was clean. I felt my emotions much better. I felt much better. My mental, emotional state. But then, since I wasn't taking it so seriously, I just went back to old ways. I went back to old ways. Then I just keep hanging out with the cool kids, And on this moment, let's say like 18 years old, on the same quarantine, I've had this relationship which affected a lot in my life. And it was with this girl that was very toxic. And I think through her toxicity, I developed toxicity as well. So it became a very toxic, very codependent relationship. If she wasn't happy, I was stressed out. How can I make you happy? If she wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. Right? If she was happy, it was all beautiful, it was all pleasurable. We kissed and it was beautiful. But it was very, very hard. We like left. Like she had dumped me, and then we came back together, and then I dumped her. So it was very on and off throughout my 15 years old and let's say like 18 years old, right? And that affected me a lot. I remember having a lot of suppressed emotions because of that as well. A lot of jealousy, a lot of anger, with other people. The experience of being of cheating on me.
Oh, I was gonna ask why the jealousy, but this sounds like it might be related to the cheating.
Yes, because I got cheated on.
Okay.
One time I got cheated on, and yeah, I started just feeling all this emotional experience, and just depending on her. So I was, this is the first time like in my life just started feeling very depressed, including the times of the quarantine. And after that, on and off relationship, suffering from that, I just started, hooking up with other girls. In this on and off period, when I was off, starting hooking up with other girls, started having this experience, kept hanging with the cool kids. We were on, then I cheated on her, right? So it was all very fucked up.
Sounds
Yes.
super messy. Super messy
Extremely
period.
messy, and yeah, for my emotional state, my mental state, it wasn't good at all. So this is all of these things just compound. They compound. Let's say like that relationship affected my future relationship with other girlfriends that I had, but earlier, right? I had like 18 years old, let's say. I had two main relationships, which we were very attracted on, more physically, right? More physically attracted. I had very weird behaviors with women. Very, very weird, peculiar behaviors. Like one day I arrived at school and I just ignored her all day. I was just mad at her for no reason. Or I didn't knew the reason.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
I didn't knew the reason why.
Probably some reason, but you weren't aware of it. Maybe still aren't.
Yes, I know. I wasn't aware of it, right? And yeah, and she got like resented, pissed off. But then the other day was like, I'm sorry for that happened. And then we were kissing all again. And then we were all over each other. Very toxic. Very weird behaviors with women. So after that, after this period of hanging with the cool kids, just frying my brain, drinking a lot, it was my 19 years old. And here I had a transformation. I went into college, but one day I just heard my internal state that was just screaming at me, telling me like, you do not belong here anymore. Like, you gotta get out of here. You're ruining your life. There is more for you in life.
Where are you referring to it with here?
So I was 19. Yes, I was 19.
But,
I would say like 2022.
But yeah, you say I don't belong here. Is that things you were?
It was like my emotional state was communicating something to me.
So, but the word here, where does that refer to?
Oh, it's because I was with my friends.
So
One
the
night-
cool kids, or
Exactly. One night I was
So-
with the cool kids. Yes.
so you don't belong here. That refer to you don't belong with these cool kids.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yes, I don't belong here, and everything that I was doing in life in general, just sabotaging myself through all areas of my life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, every area of my life was a very, very in a bad state. And after that, after I felt those emotions, just telling me that I didn't belong here, I started like leaving these people behind. And some of them judge me. Some of them are extremely resented with me through this, in this day, right? On this day, they're very resented with me. But at the end of the day, I knew that I was on the right path. I knew that I was doing the best for myself, and I was changing. I was really, really transforming myself. I started meditating. I started reading the Bible, getting closer to God. I started, meditating, journaling, working on e-commerce, online businesses.
Can I toss something in there? Those cool kids, it sounds like they sort of make you feel bad about leaving the group, which is, I think, quite ridiculous. If you don't want to be part of a group, or if you don't want to associate with people anymore, you should be free not to.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of, to me, sound somewhat emotionally manipulative. And you also talked about the exact time when you started hanging out with these cool kids and kind of ditched uncool kids, as you refer to them, as the same time as you started using alcohol and weed.
Yep.
Do you believe there might be any sort of connection between this group of people you hung out with and at least the start of I don't know whether you would refer to them as like addiction problem, but like substance use, I guess, is
Yes.
a way that at least society would refer to that.
Mm. So I remember one day that I got first caught by my parents while I was smoking weed, and my mother broke that day. She broke completely. He broke down, and she was crying in my bedroom while I was just listening to her. And she told me at one point that she was going to sell me. That was the first time that I was caught. But I still kept doing it. I still kept doing it. To answer your question, that day in which I was caught, the next day I went to school, and I was looking for the approval of the cool kids via self-pity. Like, I was very self-pitying. Oh my God, they caught me. And I was like literally acting depressed, just getting the approval of these people. And I think there's a correlation definitely onto first when I started hanging out with them, or even before when I didn't hang out with them and I saw them like as gods, you know. And there's a correlation definitely with the relationship that I had on the moment, which I had it very, very early on, and um, the question you asked me, it was the cool
Whether
kids.
you think so, I noticed that these cool kids sound kind of emotionally manipulative since they kind of make you feel bad about leaving the group, which is not a nice thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you also talked about how you started using some of these substances, alcohol and weed, at the same time that you started hanging out with the cool kids. So do you believe there might be a connection between you starting to hang out with these cool kids and at the same time kind of ditching the uncool kids, as you refer to them?
Mm-hmm.
A connection between switching from the uncool kids to the cool kids and your start of the using alcohol and weed?
Yes, I think, yes, precisely. I told you those experiences because there's definitely a correlation in terms of the transition and the lifestyle that I was living, because I think I really smoked and I drank because I just wanted to fit in. I felt good, I felt pleasure, and I just wanted to fit in. And for all my life, it's like something in me wanted to stop smoking weed and wanted to stop self-sabotaging myself, but I just couldn't stop involuntarily. Like, yeah, I wasn't aware. I didn't have the consciousness, right, that I have today. And but still, after this period of my 19 years old, did that answer your question, or?
Well, there was quite a bit in there that I wanted to respond to. I think the thing that's most lingering with me is your choice of and you used this term a couple of times, the word self-sabotaged, which for one, oh, before that, let me ask you,
Yes.
these cool kids, were they also using such substances?
Yes.
Okay, to me it seems, I mean, it's you know better than I do, but to me it's looking at it from the outside, it seems very likely that there's a connection to this group of cool kids and your start of using alcohol and weed, because
Yes.
they were using these things and the timing syncs up.
Yeah, and I wanted to fit in.
Yeah, and in that case, one, is it self-sabotage or were you sabotaged by this group of cool kids? And two, even if you were to have had a completely free choice and it had been entirely you who chose to start using alcohol and weed to maybe mask some of your pain and that you talked about, we might get into that later, but psychiatrists,
Hmm.
they're like, if that is self-sabotage, what psychiatrists are doing, who are forcing drugs upon people to mask their and suppress their. I mean, if that is self-sabotage, then for sure what psychiatrists are doing is sabotaging millions, if not hundreds of millions of people. So
That makes a lot of sense.
toss all these things out there.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you think there's maybe, do you think maybe people are okay with taking psychiatric pills because of the same reason that I was using alcohol and marijuana and trying to fit in with these cool kids? Do you think people are okay with taking these pills since they are like fitting in with society?
Rather than I commenting on what I think about a large group of people that I haven't met, instead I'd like to ask you to continue your story. I think you were like around 2022.
Yes.
And you had left these school kids. So.
Yes. So, yes, I was leaving these cool kids, right? And I started like changing. I was like another 6 months clean, let's say. I started going to university, and I noticed that when I went to university, since I was so energetic and I started eating super healthy, like I started like feeling that energy. I started feeling very, very different. I started feeling healthy and all that. And when I started going to university, I noticed that it wasn't for me. I was very uncomfortable.
What did you choose to study?
I chose business administration. Yes, business administration, but just the concept of university. I also like. I was also getting a lot into online resources. You know, I was learning a lot online. I was buying a lot of books, and I was really obsessed with learning. But it's just a concept of go to university, get a job, have a degree, resume, get a job. It's just it wasn't for me at all. And till this day, I feel I feel this emotional uncomfort when I talk about how I feel about university because of the judgment of my family. Because everybody in my family is either a doctor, an accountant. You know, they're professionals. They want you to be professional. They think the only way is to get a degree. The only way to survive is just to get a degree and get a job, right?
It's the case for a lot of those generations. I think the generations that came before us. It's interesting that you talked about when you were in your mother's womb that your mother felt like your father was cheating on you because your father was staying late at work, I think, because of financial difficulties, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So there were financial difficulties in your family back then, like 2.5 decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
But now a lot of people in your family have these shiny careers like doctor and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And they're all about like, oh, you, Kai, have to go to university and yeah.
Yes. And yeah, till this day, like my parents are still go to university. And I just didn't feel comfortable. I just wanted to just
You're gonna
stay home.
say one more thing. Just,
yes.
Again, it's an outside observation, but to me it seems like your family's prior financial difficulties had a very bad effect on you. Because one, you stated that this affected you in the womb because your mom was like had relationship issues with your dad because of that, and that affected you emotionally while you're in the womb. And two, now you're receiving pressure from your family who believes that you must go to university to, I don't want to speak for them, but be happy or not experience the same bad things that they experience. So your family's financial difficulties from 2 to 3 decades ago sound like they, in multiple ways, have had a very negative impact on you.
Definitely. Now, when I sit with them, it's like, and start talking about university, I get this stress and this anxiety, like no other thing, like that causes me. I think it's the thing that most causes me stress and anxiety when it's time to like even force myself to like go to university because I still live with them, and I really I I I think like I feel that I owe them. I feel that I need to go to university. Yeah, because they're providing me all these things. They're providing me, a roof. They're providing me all this food, all the supplements, all those vitamins. Man,
just to play not devil's advocate, but
yeah.
I'd say Kai's advocate, like, isn't that pretty much an obligation if you bring a child into this world to at least materially, at a minimum materially, keep it alive and provide to some extent for it until it's 18 at a minimum. So you feel like you owe them for that, but really, do you owe them for something that, I mean, if parents were to let their child die of starvation, like, who is in the wrong there? Like, I don't know how. I mean, you said you feel like you owe them. I don't want to invalidate those feelings, but
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the thing is that my parents, they just want to create their own life, and yeah, they just want to go like long way out of the city, and they want to go to the mountains here in Puerto Rico and just be themselves alone, and they just want me to get a degree so that they can provide me an apartment and I can just separate myself from them and start studying, or they want me to get a full-time job, and just start making a living, while in the moment I'm more focused on online, on how to make money online, right? So
are you essentially saying that they kind of want to get rid of you?
man,
So
it's great. It's yes.
allow me to again reiterate a few things you said. One, you said that between the ages of 4 and 8, your mom put on the freaking stereo loud in the car to not to have to deal with your crying, not to have to deal with your pain and suffering at such an early age that I don't think anyone could blame you for. I don't think anyone can be at fault for their own crying or emotional issues between the ages of 4 and 8. But your mom was like, I don't want to deal with this crap. I'm going to put on stereo as loud as I can in the car. And now you're essentially describing, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but essentially describing how your family wants to get rid of you. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you say you feel like you owe them.
Yes. The harsh reality. Yep. Man, it makes a lot of sense. Yes. I think that's the truth.
I'm not saying any of it is wrong. I'm just putting things out there that I infer from your statements.
Yes, I know that work, relationships, love, it causes a lot of problems. They're pillars of life, right? That you need to have in order. And if there's problems, confusion, damage, then these are the type of things that you need to face, that you're responsible of, and you need to face these things that we're talking about. Right?
You want to, like, I guess where you left off is with the university, how you feel a lot of stress in relation to university because of pressure from your family. It sounds like to go to university, but you say you don't really want to.
Yes. No, I do not. And I did not, and I still don't want to. So after this period of time, um, they thought that this concept of making money online, since I started it, and since me and my brother started it, they looked at it like so frowned upon, like as if it was illegal. And the day that they
Do you,
caught us,
you
yeah.
want to talk more specifically about what you're doing online, or
So at the time I was doing.
and why, by the way, also why, I'm curious, and why you decided to go there.
Oh. So I was introduced to e-commerce when I just started getting into the computer and watching YouTube videos. I wanted to make money because I wanted financial freedom, right? And maybe there's some reasons involved that I haven't thought about, but I just knew that I just wanted it. I was obsessed with it, like obsessed with it. And yeah, I was doing all these online things. I started drop shipping, importing products from China, importing them to a website, selling the product for more than you bought it on the first place. And after after all that, we started making content, right? Me and my brother started making content to sell the product. And the day that my parents caught us, we made a piece of content in which my brother had no shirt, right? He was going to the gym, he was ripped, and we wanted just to use that as a marketing hook, right? They, like, I haven't seen my father so mad at me.
So you were like 22?
No, I was at the time I was 19,
And your brother was?
and my brother was like 14. Yes, 14, 15, around that age. So I haven't seen my father like so mad at me, and I just a memory just popped off, and I remember me and my father playing baseball when I was a little kid, 6 years, let's say. We were just throwing the ball. We were throwing the ball, catching it, and I struggled with just catching the ball. I struggled, and he was just so pissed off at me. Like, why are you catching the ball? Like, why are you catching the ball? Very, very pissed off, just judging me. Why are you catching the ball? And that's my father has manifested a lot of anger in his life, and I think that anger is disguised as sadness, right? I think he's sad, and that's why he's angry.
Then you should phrase it the reverse, I think, because you said he's manifested a lot of anger disguised as sadness, but I think what you're describing is like fundamentally sadness but disguised as anger. So it might still be true that he manifested the anger and that the sadness was just there on like a like a below the surface, and that he manifested the anger.
Yes.
But he did what it's sadness disguised as anger, not anger disguised as sadness.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me. So yeah, that's another detail of how my the emotional state of my parents, and they do a lot of alcohol to this day. The cool kids that I hang out with, they, because it's pretty cultural here in Puerto Rico, the division of the cool kids and the nerds, then they are part of that group, right? They are part of the cool kids of their age, right? And they drink a lot, Just to give a little context of how my household, right? How it's like, and to get back to the story, my father got very angry at us because they saw this e-commerce thing so super frowned upon. They didn't want us to do this. They didn't want us to do this. And since that day, that something was triggered inside of me. Like, I just went outside and I just started walking like an hour, just very grandiose. Like, this is supposed to happen. Like, this is what I want to happen. This is my process. My parents think I'm crazy. That's good. And I just started like feeling this grandiosity, after just leaving home and walking for an hour. That same day, my mother told my brother, "Hey, you're not gonna make it. You have no talent whatsoever." Right? And it was a very impactful day on the process of me and my brother, because now we have to hide this e-commerce thing that we're doing, right? So after all that, we had pretty neutral moments. It was pretty neutral. We were living right with our parents and everything, and I was also a salesman. In that moment that I was doing e-commerce, I was also a salesman. I was selling solar panels here in Puerto Rico, right? And my parents, since I joined that company, judging me. No, that's pure commission, pure base commission. Those people, this that's a pyramid scheme. They want you to think that you have a business, but you're working for them, right?
I mean, you are, but why would anyone judge anyone for selling solar panels?
Yes, and even other uncles in my family just not showing up to, like, for example, my uncle, the I don't know how do you say, like, the wife of my uncle. She didn't show up to the meeting that I scheduled with my uncle because she had the same thought process. Oh, that's commission. Your brother is crazy. She told my little brother, like, behind my back, like, your brother is crazy. Tell him to get out of that. Things like that. I had to, like, experience that, but at the time I wasn't so affected by that, right?
And you were how old at this?
Okay, so I was like still 19 years old. Yeah, turning 20.
To me, it just all sounds like emotional manipulation. Like they just want you to do what they want you to do, which is like a prestigious career that makes them look better to their friends and such. Like, oh, my son is a lawyer or a doctor, sounds better than at least in certain communities. So my son is a solar panel. So I think a solar panel salesman is really a great job, honestly. But yeah, some of these generations, they are just so tunnel focused on what society thinks, how others see certain jobs.
Precisely. Yes, selling solar panels is a great job, but for them, it's a great job when you make it, right? When you start making serious money, right? Then they congratulate you, then you have their approval and everything, right? So I was on this moment, like, selling solar and stuff, and I was just hustling until the day I was still manifesting this grandiosity from time to time. I was just setting these big goals, and I wasn't accomplishing them.
Can I again suggest you maybe use a different word, because grandiosity, I think also it's a word psychiatrists use, and I think it's a word that generally people view very negatively.
Yes.
But when an entrepreneur has the exact same thoughts as you're describing, it's just like, oh, confidence or go get attitude.
Yes.
It's the exact same stuff. When a psychiatrist or people who don't like you describe it with the word grandiose, it's like, oh, that's bad. This person thinks that it's trying to do more than it can, like, has all these delusional ideas of what it can do in the future. But when it's like a go get attitude or confidence, then the exact same stuff is seen very positively. So I mean, you're free to describe it however you want to, but just a suggestion.
No, brother, I'm really open to your suggestions. It really is not only open, is just it's just true. Like it's literally what psychiatry does. They use these words, and they're literally ingrained in my vocabulary because I'm learning about how to disconnect from those concepts.
Yeah,
right?
you want to talk about how you got to that stuff?
Yes. So I was in this moment selling solar, and one day I got extremely stressed, restless. The same emotions that I felt in my mother's womb, same emotions that I felt when I picked up the weed. I felt extremely, extremely uncomfortable, and I remember that I went to a coffee shop, and I just got like a big yogurt and a chocolate and a complete chocolate bar, and I just put it on there. I just cracked it, and I started just coping with stuff. And at the time, I was starting to smoke weed again, so smoking weed, starting to eat unhealthy, just for the sake of coping, right? For the sake of the same habit of suppressing, pushing down what I'm feeling. And after those moments happened, I started to take very I started to take choices from that emotional state. I said to my leader in solar that I didn't want to sell solar. I started e-commerce again, but then at the next day there was like another e-commerce opportunity. I was like, no, forget about this e-commerce opportunity. I want to go to the next one, and I wanted to go to the next one, and yeah, I would say that those thoughts, let's say ambitious thoughts, entrepreneurial kind of energy. I think that the problem was that it was going a little bit on extremes, right? Like it was like, for example, I showed up in this community in which they were selling products online as affiliates, and I was like looking at people like, nah, these people won't do it like I'm gonna do them, right? I got like a lack of humility, right? And because of that lack of humility, I wasn't sustainable on anything that I tried to do. On anything, I didn't make money at all for months. For months, I was like that, manifesting weird behaviors, and then I started getting depressed. Like after coping for months, then I started getting very very big depressions. I was in my couch. I couldn't stand up from my couch. Still coping with every pleasure thing that I could find, and my parents still judging me for what I was doing. And because of that same judging, I started getting jobs. I started, I started, I started manifesting some weird behaviors. Like, for example, one day, I wanted just to go to Spain, right? I wanted to sell my computer, and it was like one of those big Macs, big iMacs, and I just went on this, and I just told him like, I'm gonna leave home, I'm gonna go to Spain, and they're super worried, and I just went with this big iMac and my briefcase to the train station, and like at like at 1 a.m. I finished just giving up, and I finished in my grandmother's house, and yeah, I started manifesting behaviors like that. I went to them one day, and I started yelling at them because they wanted me.
Like your parents now, right?
Yes, exactly. I started yelling to my parents because that same day, right before this event that happened, in which I got very aggressive, that same day, because of the behaviors that I was manifesting, that's when I looked up into psychiatry. Like, what is happening to me? I started looking on YouTube and these behaviors, and I started seeing these concepts. I started seeing the ADHD. I was introduced to that, the bipolar, the depression, and I went to a psychiatrist, right? And after talking to her,
Was there any influence from anyone else to see a psychiatrist, or was it
oh
very
my,
choice?
it was my parents. Yes, it was definitely definitely the influence of my
The
parents.
way you described it, it was entirely your own choice to look up psychiatry and entirely your own choice to go there. But I think
Yes.
it's important to
Yeah, to
yeah,
explain, yeah, everything well. Yeah, I
that's
was
not
not.
how I was gonna say it. No, I don't think you explained it poorly. Just important context to
Mhm.
also talk about, I guess.
Definitely. All right. So yeah, it was my parents, right, that greatly recommended me to go to a psychiatrist, and at the same time, I was just searching information about it, and one day I just decided.
So the first thing that came was your parents wanted you to see a psychiatrist, and only after that you started looking about it.
Yes, I think if I remember well, I think they're because they've been relying on psychology, on psychiatrists, on what society tells you to do when you have problems like these, right? So they recommended me not only to go to a psychologist and but go to a psychiatrist at the end of the day. And
I mean, you use the word recommended to you, but your parent, again, I don't know them, I've never met them, but based on what you've told me about them, they don't seem like people who would recommend you to see a psychiatrist.
yes, yes, and it's just when they say like, "Hey, you need to do this," right? I get automatically very influenced by them, very very influenced, and now I'm shaping that. Now I'm I'm fixing that um, that habit that I had. But yes, I just got influenced by
They
them.
say the word fixing, you've already decided that your habit is bad. Which I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm not judging, I'm just echoing back to you that your choice of the word fixing means that you've already decided that your behavior is bad.
Yes.
Which it may or may not be.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So after I went to the psychiatrist, she told me, "No, I think you have ADHD." I started explaining her the behaviors, that I was very energetic, that I was in school, that I was super distracted, right? I was started like um, explaining these kind of signs that psychiatrists spot, and they say no, like he has ADHD, because perhaps this is my personality, right? That was a little correlated to what is ADHD today, because yeah, and then she gave me a pill, right? Like, yeah, she just gave me a pill, and
of the first session or
on the first session, yes, yes, and it was very fast. Like it was like 20 minutes on, and then boom, and then my parents went into with the psychiatrists, like went into the room where I was meeting with the psychiatrists, and yeah, this just the psychiatrist let them know very well of the different pills that were on the market, and then no, Adderall is too strong. I'm gonna give him this one, and all those terms they use, So
wait, and you were an adult at this point, right?
I was an adult. Yeah, I was 20. Yes, I was 20. Um, so right after that, being influenced by my parents, um, I had something in me that said like, brother, do not take the pill. Do not take the pill, like at all costs. And
Just detail which pill did she describe you to?
yeah, she prescribed me Starapera, short term.
I don't know it, but
Yeah, this is a regular ADHD pill.
okay.
It's not like so stimulant as Adderall. Like you drink it and you just hyper focus. No, it takes like some days until you just get into the state of that. All right. So after being given this pill, my parents really wanted me to drink it, although I was refusing it. And one day, my
So, but no, you actually where you left off was you were saying that something in you was screaming not to
yes,
take this
exactly.
pill.
Something in me was saying no, like I don't want to take this pill. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't need this. And I wasn't thinking how I was thinking today in terms of like how I think about psychiatry, you know, all the controversies and everything. I wasn't thinking like that because I didn't got into that type of information yet. Then that same day or a couple of days after that, since I was refusing the pill to my parents, one day my parents, my father, um, he wanted me to drink the pill in front of him because in the past, because I didn't mention this to give more context to this part. After refusing it, I just accepted that they were going to keep just insisting that I should take it. So I started telling them that I was taking it, but I wasn't taking it. And then they weren't believing me, right? That I was saying that, they weren't believing them. My father literally just wanted me to take it in front of him, and I had to. Like I literally had no choice. And I left home that day, and I started getting this anger. Like I started getting extremely angry, and I was with my grandmother, right? She was at home at that moment. I left home.
This was the first time you took the pill, or
First time I took the pill, yes. I leave home with her, and I'm covered with this anger, like extreme. It was pretty extreme that day, uh, and I was just driving, and I started talking like a lot of shit of my father. Like how could he do this? How could he force me to take this? I make my own choices. Who does he thinks he is? And I was going through this very very angry period, and my grandmother was like, no, you need to take a pill. You have a problem, and if you have a problem, you need to take a pill. Like that's how life works, right? That's how things work. And I started getting more angry as she was talking to me, more angry, to the point that I I, I stopped the car. Like we were like, let's say like 30 miles per hour, and I just stopped the car completely, and it even sounded very weird. And she freaked out like a lot. She remained silent for the rest of the ride, and after I just screamed. As I was screaming when I was a child, I just screamed, brother, and I stopped the car. Like I haven't experienced such emotion in terms of anger and sadness at the same time since a lot of time. So I started really, really behaving. My emotional state started being very more noticeable. Like I started feeling it much stronger. I wasn't feeling so neutral like I used to feel, and it started to really hurt. You know, after that day, I still like was pissed off at them, pissed off, and because these depressions kept happening and stuff, and I kept searching for information, and I arrived at the day that I just said like I give up. Like I need to go to a psychiatrist. I need to drink something. Like there's gotta be something to help me with this deep depression, antidepressants, whatever. I didn't
you
know.
were taking the ADHD pills at this point, right?
At this point, I started taking the ADHD pills.
And then
Yes.
you went for depressive things as a result of the ADHD pills, essentially.
Yes, it's like I at those moments that I was just giving up on myself, I started taking pills. Like give me any pill that will help me. And I started taking the ADHD pill, and at the same time I started going to psychiatrists.
Uh, also, well, slightly confused. Like you were
Mhm.
talked about how initially your parents were like, you need to see a psychiatrist, and you saw the psychiatrist and said you have ADHD. In the first session, she gave you the pill was named
Mhm.
after the ADHD pill.
Mhm.
Didn't want to take those initially. It was something you scream, I don't want to take this. Eventually, you lied to your parents. Totally fine in this case, I think. Then your parents started forcing you to take the drug. Then, and if I'm getting this correct, then you started getting angry.
Yes. Then I had the episode
With the car
of very
stopping.
angry with his car stopping. Yes.
And after that is when you started getting depressed.
Exactly. No,
And
like on that period of time, I had these depressions, but I just
what do you
ignored the
mean
fact
by
that I
period
had
of
them.
time?
The period of time in which before I went to the first session of psychiatry,
Okay, so the
the psychiatrist, exactly, the depressions were on that realm.
Or to at least to some extent there before.
Exactly. Yes.
Were they about the same throughout, or did they get worse when you started taking the ADHD medication?
They started getting worse. Yes, and my I started getting not angry. I started getting aggressive.
Anger, the anger and the sadness, but specifically the anger you said started right after you started taking the first pills, and then the depression that was already there got worse.
Yes.
And then you decided to see another
psychiatrist.
Okay, before I ask you to talk about that, I want to say, I mean, today I made 3 posts next to that case that's going on in the UK about this. I don't know whether you've seen this, but there's a woman who was prescribed like 14 different psychiatric medications, drugs, not medications, drugs. And then she ended up murdering her 3 children and trying to kill herself.
Oh my god.
And then she failed her suicide attempt, and her husband came home, and then 911 was called, and now there's like a court case against her for the murder of her 3 children. But again, it's kind of, I think, like the amount of drugs she was put on, like 14, like there's lots of details I mean, but so that's one example of a person who I think clearly, at least to some extent, you know, they're going to decide to. Humanity is going to decide this during the course of the trial, but at least to some extent was affected by these drugs. Then there are 2 people, one of whom I'll probably meet in Michigan in a few weeks. The wife of Woody, I don't remember the last name, who and a husband who killed himself, according to his now widow Kim, as a result of psychiatric drugs. Then there's London Gad, I think also in Michigan, who killed herself shortly after being detained in a psychiatric facility and was forced to start taking drugs. And now her mother, Jure Gad, is fighting to get change. And I personally can also state that a few times after I was forced to take the medication, like the 3rd time I was locked up, I only took 1 pill. After that I started hiding another tongue. But the first day that I was made to take the drugs, I did swallow the pill, and I like fucking kicked the wall after. So I was so enraged that I was forced to take these drugs. There was another time, I think this was the 2nd time I was locked up. I think it might have been the very first day I took them, because I took them for 1 week. And then this is the final week of that confinement, I started hiding them and spitting them. But I think it might have been the first day that I took one, where one of the first days I actually felt like you've seen the episode, I felt like I hated Phyllis. Immediately after taking the drugs, I was like, maybe this was the last day that I took them, because when I felt right after taking this drug that I hate Phyllis, I was like, no fucking way I'm swallowing any more of these fucking things. So there's lots of people who are severely negatively affected by these drugs. So what you're talking about is many people have this. Feel free to comment or just continue your story.
Yes, no, good to know. There's definitely something wrong in correlation with the pills and these episodes of, well, I don't want to say episodes, these experiences where people get so angry and suicidal. You know, the same drugs cause you suicide thoughts. You know, there's just a lot of, it's very very weird and it's very new. Like the trials that they've made for all these psychiatric pills are very short. Like they're not long term. Very very short. It's just to solve your problem like right there. Right? And that's precisely what happened when I visited the psychiatrist. I was telling him all these things, and in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, he was like, okay, you can take this. It's gonna help you with that. It's gonna help you with that. And then I told him, okay, you're diagnosing, you're telling me this for the depression, right? But I also got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I told him.
So was this the second time you visited?
No, I think I can't remember well now, but I think it was the second time.
Taking the ADHD drugs, you got angry, and then you got more depressed, and you decided to, or
Exactly.
was influenced to, or decided to see another one. And
Yes.
then,
Exactly. I saw the first one. Sorry. Continue.
and then you were talking to him about depression, but you also said just now that you were diagnosed with bipolar. Who diagnosed you? If this was the second one, who diagnosed you with bipolar?
Okay, so I think it was like that. I think I had 2 appointments with this psychiatrist, right? And I'm pretty sure. And the first one, it was the diagnosis, right? And the first one, it was the diagnosis. He diagnosed me with depression and with bipolar
with the
disorder.
second psychiatrist.
First appointment with the
Okay.
second psychiatrist, exactly. So the first one was ADHD. The second was bipolar disorder and depression. And then he just gave me some pills, right? He recommended me Abilify and Wellbutrin.
No, I was made to take a Abilify.
Abilify and Wellbutrin, right? And on my way home, I was still pissed of the fact that I needed these pills. Still pissed. And
Did you really need them, or did people say that you needed them? That's the question.
oh, my parents and my grandmother, because my grandmother was a doctor, right? She was in medicine, general medicine, and yeah, they all had this mindset of like, hey, you have a problem, you need a pill. And yeah, there was sort of forcing me, right, to take these pills. And after I was like trying to process these diagnoses and the fact that I had to take pills for the rest of my life, like they said, like he said, and I got angry again. And I was in the car with my mother, and I was on my way back home right after that second appointment with a second psychiatrist. First appointment with a second psychiatrist, and he started to get very very angry, very angry. I started to feel that emotion.
The psychiatrist got angry?
The psychiatrist didn't got angry. He was like very straightforward.
Oh, you got angry?
I got angry.
Okay.
Yes. I got
During
angry.
the first appointment with the second psychiatrist?
Exactly. No, it wasn't during the first appointment with the psychiatrist. It was after I left the appointment.
Okay.
I was on my way back home with my mother, and I started to get angry. I started feeling this energy, and I started to get aggressive. I started screaming in the car, screaming. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna drink these fucking pills. I don't fucking need them. Sorry for my language.
Fine. I think that's fine.
Okay, thanks. I was just talking like that. I was just cursing, right? It's just like telling what was going out in my mind, what was getting out of my mouth, and I got, they gave me like some files after this appointment, and I started just like hitting myself in the head with them, like this, like nasty stuff. Very nasty, and my mother was just looking at me, like very, oh my god, like this dude has like a has a problem, like he's all fucked up.
I would say
This
that's a
patient.
psychiatry problem because this is right after the psychiatrist meeting, but that's not how these people see it. They just see it as for a reinforcement that you need psychiatrists, but psychiatrist sounds to me like it's the cause of it, and they give you more of what is the cause of it, and it just makes you worse and worse over time. That's my thing.
After that, I finished on I went up like in this street in which I was like arriving home, right? On the street that my home is, there is a Walgreens on top of it. Like if my home is here, you go to the left and there's a Walgreens on there. So I just stormed out of the car and I just started walking to that Walgreens. Like very with this energy, like so mad, and a lot of mixed emotions. I finished like in this Walgreens was like a ground on it in which, right, there's grass and stuff. I finished just like laying down there and just crying. And after that, I got like depressed again. And my father, I was just going back home. My father was in the car trying to find me. And then I sat down with him and I just said like, yes, like I need to humble myself. I need these pills. It is what it is. So after taking the pills, I felt very bad at the beginning. Like I still felt those depressions even though that I was taking the pills. But like for 2 weeks and a month, I started, getting used to them. I started getting used to them, and then I started feeling good. Oh my god, I'm feeling good. And after like some months, I started feeling depressed again. And every time that I got depressed, it was worse. And it was like on a weekly basis, right? On a weekly basis, I got depressed just one day. Let's say like Thursday, I got depressed. And I was still coping. I was still smoking weed at that moment, even though psychiatrists told me that, hey, if you smoke weed, the effect of the pill doesn't work to its best, right? And I was still just smoking weed, behind like nobody knew that I was smoking weed. I was just smoking weed alone to cope with the racing thoughts that I felt, with the depression, with my emotional state in general, right? And after all that, after getting all these depressions and still coping with weed, got into mushrooms. So I started doing psychedelics as well because I started doing them because I saw that they could have cured depression, right? And yeah, and for some people they have worked, but for me it was I just wanted more different drugs to just keep coping. Right? For the first experience was like amazing. This is so cool. Oh, this is so beneficial for me. It's changed my thoughts. Oh my God.
I'm just gonna ask you to focus a little bit more again on the.
Yes, definitely.
The
Yes.
story.
Yes. We are culminating here. So basically, because I had this problem with drugs, I started sharing with my father, and I started doing crazy things. I started like trying robbing him. I was looking to rob cars. Started doing crazy things to get the drug, and I ended up telling my father that I needed to go to rehab, that I needed help. And after, right, I arrived Like he was very supportive of this, and he bought me a stay at this rehab center in Costa Rica. Right, so I went to Costa Rica. I was supposed to go to 1 month, but at the month and a half, I felt psyched. I felt crazy. I felt depressed, and then I never thought that maybe this is the pill, right? And at the next day, like that same night, I called my father, telling him like I need to leave. Like, pay me a ticket back home. I need to leave. I need to leave. And he was like, no, I'm not gonna pay that ticket. You're staying. You're staying. You're staying in Costa Rica. And at the next day, I refused to take the pill. No, I'm not gonna take that stuff. I'm not gonna take that stuff. And
This
after
the day before you had kind of, I don't know, what cues would realize, what felt, or that
this was
that,
the day
that
after.
might be the cause of how you're feeling, or at least contributing to how you were
Yes.
feeling. And
Yes, exactly. So I felt on a week and a half on the rehab, I felt very, very depressed and very restless and all of these emotions at the same time. And then I questioned myself, like maybe this is the pill, right? And after, right, and I told my father I need to leave. And after, like the day after, I refused to take the pills
do
because
you want to describe a little more about how you came to that question?
Conclusion.
Is that question not even necessarily conclusion, like instinct, or are there more words you want
Question.
to
yes,
use to describe this internal?
definitely.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
you choose your words.
Yes.
I
Okay, so I think I heard in a podcast, I've heard on a podcast that these pills had side effects. And after like some moments of searching what were the side effects of the pills, and this was before going into rehab, like I knew they had side effects, but I didn't thought that what was happening to me, these weekly depressions, were side effects. I thought it was bipolar. And because of that, I just, man, I just remembered that there's so many people that told me, no, if you are not feeling good, if something supernatural is happening to you, you have to change the pill. So with this information that I remembered, it was like maybe it is the pill. Just one day, it just instinctively just popped
okay.
right in my thought process. And after all that, right, my father didn't want me to leave. He knew that I had a problem with drugs and everything. And I got it with a psychiatrist, and that's precisely what we did.
In Costa Rica?
In Costa Rica, exactly.
Yeah,
I refused to take the pills, and at the day after that I refused to take the pills, I started feeling very, very weird. Very, very weird. And I said to myself, I need to take the pills. Like, I cannot cold turkey this. No, I'm gonna feel horrible. So I have no option. I need to take the pills.
How long had you been taking it for at that point?
It's like I would say like 8 months.
Okay,
8
that's
months.
quite a while, yeah.
Yes. And so after accepting that I needed to take the pills, I started feeling bad again. I started feeling depressed again. So I said, this is definitely the pills. And the day after that, I got with a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist that goes to the center. And he recommended me another pill. Like, he prescribed me a different pill, right? A different combination of pills, right? This time it was lamictal, which is a mood stabilizer, Lamictal. The second time was, the second pill was an antipsychotic, lurazidone. flurazidone, right? And I was still with the Wellbutrin. They basically got the Abilify out of the equation, and I started feeling extremely better. I started saying to the psychiatrist, I feel like myself. This is amazing. Like, this is what I needed, you know. And after like some weeks passed on the rehab, I decided to stay longer at the rehab because it was going super well. I was knowing like a lot of people, and I was learning a lot. So I just decided to extend the stay. And I started getting those depressions again. Like, let's say after a month of being in Costa Rica, a month and a half, I started getting depressions again. And after that, he prescribed me more quantities of the pills that I was taking, right? Double the quantities, right? I started feeling better again. Oh my God, this is what I needed. And then Costa Rica ended. The rehab, it was like 3 months on that rehab. Had a great experience, really, really good experience. I arrived home, and literally on that same week, I'm feeling horrible again, like horrible. I'm looking like with these like when I tell you that I was trying to get the drug out of any place possible, I literally searched in the street if I could smoke anything that fell on the ground. And to that point, I was going back to these old ways, right? In Costa Rica, I was introduced to the communities of Narcotics Anonymous, right? And I started going to these communities. The connection with people there helped me a lot. And when I arrived here in Puerto Rico after the rehab experience, I said to myself like, nah, I can do this alone. I'm okay. But then after humbling myself that first week, I started going to the meetings again, and I started connecting, and till this day, I'm sober. Yes?
Pause you for a second and make an observation that I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
So to me it seems like, and I think it's the case for most people who use things like alcohol and weed,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you might have even talked about this yourself, that you use them to kind of mask or deal with a pain, like coping. And then you're sent or go to a psychiatrist also for pain, emotional pain, or mind pain as they call it, and they give you drugs to heal or manage the pain. And then you described that your drugs were changed, so the Abilify was dropped, and then you felt good for a while, but started getting depressed again. They up like your doses of these drugs, and after you come back home to Puerto Rico, you say that you continue to seek out weed and various drugs, which I think is a clear sign that you were still, like, the underlying pain was still there, because you continued to engage in the behavior to me it seems like all you were trying to do is like not feel that pain that's too painful for you to feel. That's why you, to me it seemed like you went to weed initially, and even now once you're on increasing doses of psychiatric drugs, the pain is still there because you still seek these things like weed to not have to feel that horrible pain anymore. So really, these psychiatric, like, are they doing anything is my question, but I'll let you, that was my observation. Like,
Yes.
Can I hear your story again?
Yes, definitely. No, they were doing completely opposite. Like, after I started going to the communities and they were helping me, the connection, I started going, I used to smoke weed mostly at night, and I wasn't such a heavy smoker. Like, before all of this, I was smoking like 2 times a week, tops, right? Maybe 3. But I mentioned that because you don't need to be such a heavy smoker to be greatly affected by such substances. But then, right, I'm going to these communities, I'm staying sober, I'm feeling good, I'm going at night, right, when I used to smoke, now I'm replacing the habit, and man, I started feeling better. But a couple of weeks ago, man, I started feeling the same depression again, but just in different forms. I got a new psychiatrist because the old psychiatrist, he was a son of a bitch. Like the one that diagnosed me, he just wanted me to get the pills, you know, yeah, to just drink the pills, don't worry about it. And when I went to write the same psychiatrist on a monthly basis, I told him, like, hey, this is happening to me in my life, like work wise. And he was like, what are you gonna do with your life? Like, you're not working, you're not studying. Uh, yeah, like, what are you gonna do with your life? You gotta be a productive member of society. Hey, this girl, this patient that I have that has bipolar disorder, she's extremely successful. Like, what are you gonna do with your life, right? And then, so to finish with the story, I'm finishing literally right now. I started feeling these side effects again. I went to this new psychiatrist. She wanted me to replace the lurazidone with another pill. Diazepam is the name of the pill. It's the antipsychotic that I was drinking, um, replaced by another antipsychotic. Now I didn't felt so depressed. Now I felt restless again, uncomfortable as hell. But I wasn't feeling like depressed, being in your room, in your bed. No, I was feeling like I need to go out. I need to be out of my home. And in this moment, I even felt like resentment with my parents. In these moments that I was feeling the side effects at the same time, I was feeling like resentment with my parents. I didn't want to be home. I just wanted to get out of there. I was hours out, just feeling this pain, feeling. It was horrible, horrible. And after all that happened, I got with a psychiatrist again, and I told her, I'm done with this. Like, I met you, right? We started connecting through X. I started searching new information. I started searching what alternatives that I have, right? What nutritional things I could do, what supplements I could take. I started searching the truth. I started just searching different podcasts, and I've had searching on the past, but this time was different. This time was like, I will not procrastinate on this. Like, I will stop procrastinating on, hey, eventually I'll taper the pills, right? Eventually, this is gonna take time. No, brother. No, like, I'm fucking done with this. And till this day, right? The other day, I saw an expert on.
So this is quite recent.
Quite recent, yes. Literally a week ago. I went to a nutritional expert, and he just like told me about all these supplements. He told me that I was deficient in vitamin C, that I was deficient in vitamin D, and my parents were there as well, because my parents are super supporting on this process, for the reasons that there are that they have, but they're supporting me, right? Financially, more like, and yeah, I just started drinking all these supplements. I just started drinking everything, and man, to this day I feel very, very good, like very, very good. I do not feel the side effects that I was feeling. I feel great. I'm taking a bunch of supplements, but I feel very, very good, right? Without getting cocky, because you know these pills are their stuff. But right now, very few people know about this, but I started tapering the pills myself, and like, I just cannot keep like taking the entire pill. I just cannot. And in this moment, as I am changing in mind, body, spirit, I'm feeling very confident that yes, the process of tapering can be long, but as I just keep working on my trauma, as I keep working on these issues, as I keep talking to people like you, as I keep going to all these resources that I have, then I feel very confident that I need to get the fuck out of here, because out of the pills, because I do not want my brain getting used to them. Because the longer that you are on the pills, the more your brain gets used to them, gets dependent on them, and the harder it's gonna be to taper them. So, man, and the last thing that I wanted to mention, even my psychiatrist is a good resource for me now, because the last appointment that I had with her, which was very recent as well, I told her that I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time, because she started talking to me about how you feel with the new pill. Let's work on how you're feeling. I don't want to waste your time. I'm done with this. I do not care. Like, I had to convince her like for 30 minutes that I'm not gonna drink the pill. She was like, no, there's these bipolar groups around your area that you can go in, and you can see people that have tried to taper these pills, and they always come back to the same thing, to the same condition and stuff. And it's like, no, like, no. I'm convinced that this is the way, like, right now. And so yeah, right now I'm just gonna try my absolute best to get the fuck out of these pills. And I believe that these diagnoses, they are curable. And I think that's controversial to say, but if you start looking on the internet of people that had bipolar, people that had schizophrenia, you look like psychiatrists like Dr. Yosef on YouTube. These people, like, they are living testimonies that these things are literally curable, are things that you just need to solve the root causes, which we're exactly talking about right now, right? So it is literally about that, I think. And yeah, that's basically my story.
My final two observations.
Yes.
I'm gonna applaud you for setting boundaries. Like,
Thanks.
when you talk about saying no, I'm not gonna do this no more. Like, one,
Thanks, brother.
just applause, and two, I won't even try to put it into words. It just
Thank you so much.
it's good. And the second thing, the happiest I see you, or at least from the outside, you look the happiest when you talk about that you're stopping these drugs. Like,
Definitely, bro.
I can see how much you smile when you talk about stopping the drugs. So, I mean, if that's how you feel about and
Yes.
talk about stopping these drugs, then stop the drugs. That's like, I mean,
That's
yeah.
it, brother. Now. I'm not gonna procrastinate enough, no.
So yeah.
No. I just go with my intuition, and just taper the pills, and I go chill. I'm feeling super well. I've been like 1-2 weeks tapering the pills, so that's an episode for another day after the whole process is culminated.
You want to do the 6 questions?
I do. Yes, I'm looking forward to the 6
Let
questions.
me grab my laptop here.
Okay. Okay, question 1. I'll let you drink your water first. Okay,
Ready.
question 1. What are the root causes of your suffering?
So, throughout this episode, we were emphasizing on the emotional experience, let's say the mind and spirit problems that one develops throughout their childhood and their own emotional processing, their own perception of the world, and that's definitely one of the, I would say, one very primal source of the patterns that I had when I was manifesting these behaviors.
So, for me personally, I use emotional rather than mind and spirit because I think there's less disagreements, less people disagree on the existence of emotions than people disagree on the existence of mind or spirit. But so these emotional things you develop, I don't know. I don't want to speak about your emotional issues, if I can say it overall, or emotional unpleasant emotions as well.
Yes.
Out there. These things that developed during your childhood, what do you think are the root causes of those?
Never thought about that. So you're asking me, like, what are the root causes of the unpleasant emotions?
Yes. That you experienced and such, and maybe they were still present today.
Well, I never thought about that, but the first thing that comes into mind, I think it was my own emotional processing of the things that were occurring. Like certain, and you can, and I would love for you to comment on this, but let's say the experiences that we talked about, I think certain emotions come out of, like, certain emotions are provoked because of experiences like, for example, being judged by society. Maybe you experience an emotional state when you are judged of being embarrassed, for example. And when you start perceiving those emotions as, for example, no, I don't want to feel this, like, this is very uncomfortable. You know, that pain compounds, and I think that pain is reflected onto my person today because of the much experiences that I had of suppressing those kind of emotions instead of just looking at them and just processing them from a different perspective.
Initially, you started talking about where you kind of stated that it was the way you processed, and it sounded like you were going to blame yourself. But then as you continue talking, I really liked to where you ended up, which to me sounded like you both acknowledged, which I would personally use the number one reason, but like your surroundings, like you talked about societal pressures, and we talked earlier about your parents and to an extent your parents' actions, like your mother in the car, but also to an extent your parents' circumstances with financial difficulties, which is less so their fault. And which cause you to feel a certain way. All of these things.
Exactly.
I mean, the child is not going to be unaffected if their mother turns, does that in the car. And then you still also said that your processing of these emotions also play a part, which I think is probably fair. Like children are perhaps less. Or maybe thought indirectly. I mean, this is an entirely different topic that I could get into. Why do process them the way you process them. It's not because you observe others or were taught by your parents, or is it something that is just who you are? Like, again, this is we can talk about it if you want to, before you can spend the next few weeks thinking about it by yourself. You know, you can always dig deeper into all sorts of different directions.
Yes.
And the same with the thing that wasn't so nice that you did to your younger brother. Why did you do that? Like, these are all questions you can ask yourself. But I liked where you ended up with. There's definitely outside, like you talked about society, and we earlier talked about your parents, but you also talked about the way you process things, and perhaps these days you learn to also process things differently. That doesn't mean that these, because such terrible experiences, they affect you obviously, but if you learn to process them better, they're still terrible experiences, but maybe you're more resilient to them, is the way I would describe it.
Yes. Makes sense. Yes, makes sense.
That's what I would say about that.
Yeah, and also, like, there are certain emotional patterns that we are influenced by, of that things that don't even belong to us, like things that, like, these emotional patterns, like stress, anxiety, they can be influenced to us until like 3 generations beyond ours. Our mother, grandmother. It can affect us because what they didn't dealt with goes, from grandmother to mother to child.
Yeah, generations wrong.
Precisely. So that's I think that it has influenced definitely my emotional state and how I've been perceiving that experience. But yes, it's a great question. Like, asking yourself why, like, why did I perceive it like that? Okay, why? Why repeatedly? So you get into a better understanding of it.
Curiosity and learning about yourself.
Definitely. No, and I'll definitely will do that along with the forgiveness of my brother. But another roots that I wanted to mention of my suffering, I wouldn't say only like trauma, emotional experience. People usually talk about a spiritual wound, a spiritual emptiness. At least for where I'm from, and for the people that I've talked to, therapists, etc., they've told me about this spiritual emptiness. That you got a spiritual emptiness. And I think there's truth on that, because at least for my experience, having a higher power of your understanding, whatever you want it to be, but believing, like genuinely believing that there's something out there that can help you solve all of your problems, like every single thing, then I think this belief really gets onto your body. Like, your body starts acknowledging this belief and really sinking it in. And that, I think that cause of that is healing. At least from my experience, right? I can't say that I'm totally healed, obviously, but you can really feel it. And I think the feeling comes from the belief. Comes from a genuine belief that something out there in which you can just make an order, in which you can just say, I'm going to heal, like, heal my brain, please. And you just permit yourself to do it, you permit yourself to let that been done upon you, if I explain myself well.
So it sounds like you're talking about some sort of power that you believe in?
Yes, because
Yeah, like a higher good or something.
precisely because that spiritual emptiness, I think it helps you on an emotional level. I think it helps you on your process of, for example, my process, that would be tapering these pills and feeling these side effects. I feel that having a higher power to rely on, I feel that it can help you with, for example, coping with that stress that you receive, or for example, the side effects that I'm going to feel, or if I feel them, of tapering the pills. I can cope with it. I can say no. Like, this is my higher power, which is permitting me to heal by feeling this uncomfort right now. Like, this uncomfort means that I'm healing. It doesn't mean that I need to get back on the pills. It doesn't mean that I need these pills for the rest of my life. No, I'm going to push through this, but not relying on myself. No, relying a little bit on myself, but leaning into the help of a higher power. So that's the spirit part of this connection of mind, body, spirit. I just wanted to mention that.
I'll say your beliefs are completely valid. They're right. I, not being religious like you, the way I see it, I see you giving all the credit to some higher power, whereas you used to say you didn't do all of that. Like, I don't know your internal experience, maybe to you it seems like you had some outside help.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also, at least from my perspective, I think you deserve a lot of credit as well for, you find that within you, you're the one saying no, and you're the one going into this path that seems to be the right path for you. I think you. What I'm trying to say is, I think you deserve some credit as well.
Oh no, brother, I'm completely agreeing with you. Like, but the thing is that I can give myself credit for the things that have happened in my life, because the things that happen in my life is because of my fault. Like, I am where I am now, and it's my responsibility with the problems that I have now, with the mindset that I have now, and this is just my perspective, sharing my perspective, that it's my responsibility to deal with what I have today. Like, I cannot reverse time. I can't do anything, whether it was external or whether it was me that caused these roots. But after acknowledging that, we see that you're on a place in which you have a big load, and it may be, I don't consider myself religious. I don't like, I don't belong in any religion. I don't consider myself like Christian or Buddhist, none of that. But, and this is maybe a little controversial, to maybe the viewers, to maybe yourself, but I admit freely that I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm not a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ didn't tell you, hey, you must be a Christian. No, he didn't tell you that. He didn't tell you to follow me. So that has worked for me, because I've had an intimate connection with him. Well, I started developing a more intimate connection with him lately, but I've had a calling for that since I started reading the Bible, since I started transforming myself, or even before that. So, to conclude with the spiritual aspect, I would say that you have a big load today, and I don't think that we humans have the capacity to handle such a big load without a higher power's help. That's my perspective.
Before we get too off topic, I think we should focus a little bit again.
Let's go.
Do you want to add anything to the root causes of your suffering? Or are you...
Brother, yes. The physical aspect. The physical aspect. You see people completely healing from mental disorders, not relying, not necessarily on a higher power.
Are you now talking about a root cause or something that helped you heal
No,
from?
I'm talking about root cause.
Okay.
Yes. Because I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not an expert on medicine, but I know that I've seen people relying on certain diets like the ketogenic diet to heal, for example, schizophrenia. There's a woman that her name is Lauren Kennedy West on YouTube. That's what she promotes. She doesn't promote like I do a higher power, and she talks about emotions and all these things, but her focus is this is what healed me, ketogenic diet, because yeah, probably depending on carbs is not necessarily the best for your body. All bodies are different, right? At the end of the day, but maybe your body needs fats. Maybe your body needs ketones. You know.
Are you trying to get to saying that your lack of a proper diet is one of the causes of your suffering?
Yes, brother. There's a reason why I started taking all these pills. All these supplements. That I started complying to my deficiencies. That right now I'm slowly adapting to a ketogenic diet, and I'm starting to slowly run on fat instead of carbohydrates. There's a reason why I'm feeling much better. I would recommend anyone with these kind of problems that we're going through to just try it. And I don't want to promote it as, hey, this is going to completely solve all your problems, this is going to completely solve your disorder. No. We are talking about a variety of root issues, and if you dedicate energy and you solve them one by one, I think you can feel better as a human in totality in all areas of your life.
Okay, I'll acknowledge that you're saying that it's helped you feel better, and I've heard others who have felt better eating keto, but I don't think that's the same as the lack of keto being a cause of your suffering. Like, to me, it sounds like what you're describing is that keto helps you feel better and maybe even heal some of your pain. But healing pain, I don't think it's the same as being responsible or the cause of
No.
pain.
No.
So
No.
I don't.
Precisely.
Unless I'm missing something, I don't think it would fall as a cause of your suffering. Maybe something that helps you get over something.
Yes. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yes. I definitely know what you're saying. Yes. But, for example, if I were to eat, if I were eating a ketogenic diet, if I were eating extremely healthy, if I were taking these supplements, maybe I would feel much better when it came to controlling these aggressive episodes. Maybe the potency of the emotional chaos wouldn't have been so hard.
Yeah, but wouldn't.
But it was still there. It's still there.
You know, that doesn't mean it's a cause, right? You're describing it as something.
Yeah.
Perhaps for you a cure, I could go that far, but not like the lack of a cure is not a cause. Like, for example, if you have a bacterial infection, antibiotics are going to cure your bacterial infection, but the lack of antibiotics was not the cause of the bacterial infection, right?
Yes.
So I don't
I'm with
think
you.
you can say that the lack of a ketogenic diet, as helpful as it may be to you and some others, I don't think you can say that the lack of a ketogenic diet is a cause of suffering.
I'm completely agreeing with you because I was in another line because you're talking about suffering.
Yeah, cause
I'm
of.
thinking about bipolar.
Oh.
I'm thinking about schizophrenia.
Okay, so I'm still on the first question. What
Yes.
are the root cause of your suffering? You talked about some of your emotional things as a
Yes.
child, which came, as you said, from society as well as your parents. I think we talked about.
Yes.
Yeah, perhaps you also listed that your response to those things that were done to you also contributed.
Definitely.
Is there anything else you want to add? Or like, from my perspective, as we talked through and you told me everything, it also did seem like the psychiatric drugs were something. I mean, also perhaps your parents pressuring you in various areas is one thing, but then also specifically the psychiatric drugs, because you talked about that after the first time you took them, you became more angry. But no, you started becoming angry. You became more depressed, and the happiest I heard from the outside, the happiest you seemed was when you talked about stopping these drugs. So at least to me, I don't, you're the authority on this subject.
No.
You know you better than I do, but.
No, I completely agree with you. Yes, I really do. I really do because, yeah, man, like, this is sometimes like if you see it from a third person, right? A guy like you that I assume that you have like done a lot of research. You're spend time on X, you spend time replying to posts, and that's how we connected, right? And a little more profoundly about this subject than me, and you tell me these things and they make sense to me. So yes, I agree with you.
Well, for me personally, it was more of like the things that psychiatrists did to me than the drugs. The drugs were perhaps a minor contributor. You saw in my episode, but
yes,
from hearing from others, it sounds like to a lot of people, these drugs do hurt them. I mean, there's big discussion actually now, and it sounded from your story like that would also be something that added to your suffering. But again, you're the authority on the causes of you're the authority on you. I'm not, so ultimately it's you. But maybe you want to move on to the second question.
Let's go.
Okay, this is the would sorry, I'm so low.
No.
Would you be helped by being locked up, stripped of your rights and liberties, and subjected to involuntary brain alteration, with a risk of being restrained to beds, tortured, and having electricity repeatedly sent through your brain without consent?
So the question is basically, would you be helped?
Yeah, by being locked up in a psychiatric facility
Would you be
and the
helped?
things that come along with that.
I mean, in my case, I have a family that supports me. That's definitely a big privilege. I thankfully have a network of people that support me, and I think there's a part of the intention of this question that I don't understand.
There's no hidden intent behind it. It's just, these things are going on around the world, and with the, they're, people are told that this is to help people. I think from my personal experiences, it doesn't help me. I can only speak for myself, and you can only speak for yourself. So I'm just asking, would you and you alone be helped? Like, you don't have to answer for anyone else.
Okay. Yes. Now I understand the question. No.
Okay. Yeah. That's very simple.
No, and that's just not the way to do things.
Yeah. If I ever get a yes, I'll be super curious.
That's
I
not
think
the
I'm
way.
just gonna get lost to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Third question: would you be helped by drugs that alter over 99% of the about 500 trillion connections in your brain, which is fundamentally what psychiatric drugs are?
No.
You've already alluded to that.
No. But I want to comment on that, like a small comment. And I think that psychiatric drugs are are never the solution. Are never the solution. If you ask a psychiatrist, how many patients have you healed?
Well, on that front, I do want to push back because again, I can only talk for me, and you can only talk for you, and we can give our opinion on whether we think it would help others, but ultimately, everyone can only make their own choices. And
Yes.
although I think, again, my perspective is that fundamentally they suppress like emotions, and even I would say that there could be some uses for them. Like I think fundamentally they prevent you from working on yourself and your own emotions, and prevent you from healing from your trauma.
Yes.
Something, yeah. But it doesn't mean that for short term that I cannot think of any short term situations where it could be of use. An example I could give is if I were to be married and I were to have a wife and children, and my wife and children died in a plane crash. Like my reaction to that is going to be like I can't imagine. It's going to be super severe, and I might be super suicidal. I might need to work. Like perhaps there's like a super big thing going on. You know, generally you would think that your company is going to be understanding of such a situation, but maybe you're like the CEO of something or something super important. You just gotta focus on your work for the next week because you're gonna get something. Anyway, I think, to put things simply, there might be short-term uses to when you cannot deal with super strong, severe, overwhelming emotions, to put them aside in the short term with things like psychiatric drugs, and suppress them in the short term, then only to go and work on them afterwards. I think that could be a case where they could serve some use. That's not how they're used these days. These days they're used to suppress people's emotions for their entire lives, so they never get to work on them. But I personally, I would push back on saying that they don't help anyone or they don't serve any person, because it's just such a generalized, absolute statement. And I think you can always, maybe not always, but oftentimes come up with some exceptions where they might serve some use, and even for these drugs that I think are causing a tremendous amount of suffering. I think there are even to those drugs some uses.
No, that was precisely where I was going. Like, I don't think they're the solution for the long term. And I'm sorry because I didn't explain myself well. I didn't use the correct words in my response. But yeah, I want, that's precisely what I wanted to say. What I meant to say, that on the long term they're no use, but on the short term, yes. Like, there are situations, just like you say, but it doesn't, the fact that you need to work on yourself and work what are the root causes of your suffering, being on the pills on the short term or not is essential.
Yeah. Sorry, I was a little sick last week. I'm still recovering. Okay. Question number 4. Would you be helped by paying someone to listen to your problems and potentially give you unsolicited tips and advice on how to be and how to live your life? So it's not the nicest description of therapy, but essentially what therapy is fundamentally. Do you think therapy would help you?
I think you need to. I think that you need to really know the therapist. I think that you need to, like, your focus shouldn't be, and I think your focus shouldn't be like talking about your problems. I think psychology needs to go to another.
I think you're trying to answer the question again of what would help others, but
Okay.
really what I'm asking is would you be helped by it? Like
Right.
you can because what you can with 100% certainty.
Mhm.
See, I mean, you are in charge of like you know yourself best. You are the authority, the number one authority on whether it would help you or not.
Yes. Depending on the therapist.
That's valid, I think. Yeah. Oh boy, I'm starting to.
No.
I'm keeping it in
Right.
for 2+ hours. Okay. Question number 5. What would help you? Is there something I or anyone watching can do to help you?
Anyone that's watching to help me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like in recent weeks or months, the exact time isn't completely clear, but you've recently been quite a bit better since you, or it sounded like, since you stopped the drugs and you started reading online about things. So it sounds like recently you've been getting a little bit better and saying no to drugs and stuff like that, but you've still been, it sounds like, through quite a lot of shit in your life.
Yes.
To be frank, which is
Of
I
course.
consider just episode I consider my name to be frank. I'm frank. But so yeah, what would help you going forward or at this point in time? Is there something I or anyone watching can do to help you?
Yeah. I would say, like, having. Well, for me, it would definitely be. It would definitely start with yourself. I think it would start with, right, talking about my own experience, how I see things. Like, what is my mindset? Of any situation that I'm going through, everything that I went through in the past, the daily things that I go through, how do I respond to events in my life? What are the thoughts that I'm dedicating energy to? And I maybe sound a little philosophical, but it's just that I'm attracted to it because I see the person that I was and I see myself today, and I think, like, just the act of changing the way you view things, changing the way you view yourself, and altering your mindset would be the most helpful resource.
To me, it sounds like you're trying to give advice for others, but I asked
This
you.
is very automatic. Sorry.
I mean, maybe you're too selfless of a person because really, you've been through a lot of shit. It sounds like you've had not an easy life, from my perspective. So, what would help you? Is there something I or anyone watching can do to help you?
Right.
Like, not what do you think would help, what can you do to help, what can others do to help you? Or what can you do to help you even, like, what do you think would help you?
Well, I think maybe information and support. Information, I would say, like, for example, I'm talking with you today, and you've opened my how I like the perception of my problems and on how to view psychiatry. You know, the different words that I was habitually using, I do not have to use them anymore.
Yeah, things like hyperactive change to energetic, and there was another one I think with
Grandiosity. Yes, and I think that type of information is extremely. Yes, I think that type of information is extremely valuable. And when I say network, when I say support, it's just that I think in a world where, you know, AI is very has a lot of influence, and the internet, everybody's on their phones. You're on a doctor's office and everybody's on their freaking phones. I think we're losing that natural, essential, necessary connection as humans, because not because of the internet, but as we've discussed, problems in society. And I think having like genuine support, people that actually care for you, that actually love you and support you in this process, I think that would be ideal in terms of viewer, in terms of yourself, and what I would do in my life to help myself.
Yeah, I think it's also important to address that for some people who've been through hard experiences, it's already hard, I think, in today's society, and everyone treats each other. It's already hard to find people to connect with, and then if you've been through a horrifying experience, I can definitely speak for myself that some of the things I've been through, I'll understand. At least I understand myself, so that helps. I can be there for myself, which is why I like to spend quite a lot of time alone, because when I'm alone, with the only person who understands me, type of thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying, and that's totally valid. But I have to say, it just is very normal. Thank you for voicing them.
And I would like to get to the point in which I can say I understand myself. Today I can't say that.
It takes time, for sure. It's, especially when your childhood is rough, it takes time. Okay. Last question. Question number 6. If you could change 3 things about the world, what would they be?
Okay. Well, society. How they view things. Things like, for example, the school system. Man, I wouldn't even say society.
There's also 2 ways to look at this, right? There's one way, how would society be better for others, and there's another way, how would society be better for me?
Yes.
And it might overlap to some extent.
Yes.
Just
could I? You know what I would change about the world? I think.
You're not actually the dictator of the world. You're not actually God of this universe. But for a minute, imagine that you were. What would you change?
I think I'm going back to information, like how people are educated. Like That's definitely one thing that I've changed about the world. Um, I would make the world a uh, more natural, less less city, less neurotoxins in the air, less unnatural stuff like the cigarettes, all of the bullshit that is causing um, a lot of big problems. And the third thing that I would say is, yeah, the first thing that come to mind is like love. I think people should just be genuinely like love others, you know. Um, I think I think just love is like a great. Um, I see the world with people loving each other, genuinely loving each other, and I see a very more happy world. They like that. So that's for me.
I really do like the third thing you mentioned.
Mm.
I wish for the same, but I will say that it's a wish slash hope slash desire. It's not something
Yes.
you or I can change. Like we the two of us can do our best to
Precisely.
treat others nicely or love others, but we can't like change the world. We can't like if we try to force everyone to love each other, like it's not. We can wish for it, but we can't change it. But
Yes.
that's a nice one as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
And then as I texted you yesterday, is there anything else, any sort of other off topic, anything else you would like to talk to me about, or in on camera?
Hmm. How do you see the future of psychiatry?
How do I see the future of psychiatry? I don't tend to make future predictions as much anymore. I did when I wrote a blog about investing in Tesla. I will say that I think I can prove using logic that psychiatry is hatred. Like, I think fundamentally putting boundaries on others is hatred because you're restricting the freedom of others.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a form of hatred. I think psychiatry, I mean, suppressing emotions, that's kind of restricting emotions, is putting boundaries on emotions, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, psychiatrists lock people up, restrain them to beds, etc., etc. So to me, psychiatry is maybe not every single part of it, but it's overall mainly hatred.
Mm.
Refer to it as hatred in its purest form. And I think using the prisoner's dilemma, which is part of game theory, you can actually prove that good things win out over bad things. There's good YouTube videos on the topic that will explain it better than I could do in this moment. But you can actually, using game theory and a prisoner's dilemma, you can prove that good wins over evil, and I think love wins over hatred. And so I think ultimately people are going to wake up to what is happening with psychiatry, and ultimately psychiatry will, I won't say cease to exist, but hopefully my hope is that it's eventually going to be like traditional Chinese medicine type of thing.
Yes. Yes.
So that's my hope, and I believe that will happen. I don't see how it cannot happen, but yeah.
Gotcha. Yes. And very off topic. How has the presence of a relationship or relationships with women impacted your life through the process of of your of our suffering, of the roots of our suffering and our journey through our healing.
How have my relationships with women impacted our
No,
suffering?
no. When I say our is like the process, right, of suffering itself, but no, I'm talking about your process, your individual process. How has that
My
impacted?
relationships with women have impacted my own healing journey slash. I mean, Phyllis was instrumental. Like, I got it written in my will, something something along the lines of I don't know where, who or what I'd be without you. Like without I honestly I can't answer because I don't know where I would have been if not for Phyllis. Like, I wouldn't be who I am, I wouldn't be where I am, I wouldn't be what I am without Phyllis. That's like her impact on me has been so enormously positive that I can't even answer that question. That's how big her impact has been. Yeah, so I can't do I don't know the answer to your question because that's how big her impact has been.
Would you recommend me to have a relationship?
If you want to.
Okay. Nice.
I mean, I think most people will choose to. I also, this is, so I spoke to a missionary in Geneva last week. I spoke to him for like 30-40 minutes. One of the things that I spoke to him about, this is a belief of mine, he was curious about my beliefs. I told him, you can imagine that after we die, we go to an afterlife or heaven or whatever, and that materially you can have anything you want. Yes, in theory, that's possible. Obviously, the world we live in, if you want, things have to be built, and we have to put an effort to build cars and houses and everything. But you can imagine that, especially if things like gods exist, as religions tell us, that in a heaven or an afterlife, materially, there's like no limit. You can have whatever we want. You have houses, cars, food, probably many other things, as much as we want. But there is one thing that we cannot have as much of as we want, and it's relationships. Do you know why, or shall I spill the beans?
No, I think you should spill the beans.
It's because if I want to have a relationship with someone, I cannot just have that. It requires the other person to also want to have a relationship with me. If I have relationships with people who don't want to have relationships with me, I'm a rapist. So I think relationships are I think undeniably, maybe someone can come up with a better thing, but I think undeniably the most important thing in life, and I reckon after just relationships, I think are the most important thing. So, and probably the most fun thing as well, because you can imagine if you go to heaven or something, you can have whatever you want materially. I think it's going to get pretty boring eventually if there's no one to share it with. I mean, many people say things along these lines. So ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to have a relationship or relationships. It's all up to you, but as long as people consent to have relationships with you. But
yes, but this concept of heaven and hell, this is talked about, it's like you mentioned, it's many people that talk about this concept. It's not everyone in, for example, religions, specifically Christianity or followers of Jesus. Then I wanted to tell you, if relationships are the most important thing, then how can you differentiate? What is the difference between having a relationship with a woman or having a relationship with God?
What the difference is? Well, I've never met God or a God, so how can I have a relationship with someone I've never even met? Like, to me, many religious people say they have relationships with God. I'm not saying they're wrong, but to me, yeah, it's like blind dating without, like, yeah, it's kind of like blind dating.
Yes, but
Like, without ever meeting the person until after you're dead, I guess.
yes, but can you agree that you can develop? Can you agree that relationships in general, whether that be with God, whether that be with a woman, whether that be with your brother, that at the end of the day, and I'm just like thinking here, I haven't thought about this, but at the end of the day, like, it provides the same needs. Like, for example, let's say love. Like, at the end of the day, isn't that like the common denominator of every relationship?
So you're stating that everyone needs love?
No, I'm saying that maybe a relationship as it is defined, like the word relationship, there's that if whether you have a relationship with your father, with your mother, with your girlfriend, the common denominator with these relationships is love. Like, if you don't have love involved in these relationships, then you don't necessarily have a relationship.
What about with a psychiatrist? Like, if I not, like it's like a client. I mean, they see it as a doctor patient. I would see it as a client, like a customer and salesperson almost relationship, or like a colleague or business related. You're a salesperson for a solar company and your customers, those are relationships. Is there love involved in those relationships? I would say, especially when you're a salesperson and you're selling something, I don't think I don't know that love is possible in capitalism, because it's all about
Well, as the experience that I have being a salesperson, the times that I've actually sold is where the most love has been felt via me and the client. But when I'm not genuine, for example, with a businessman, for example, and I want, like you say, capitalism, like I want just the money at the end of the day, then there's there's definitely a difference between the salesperson that is actually genuine, or the salesperson that just wants the money and just wants to, for whatever reason they have. And where I'm going with this is that relationship may be not the word, the correct word that I wanted to use. Maybe there's another word that I wanted to use, but I wanted to close with this subject that I think the difference when you said that the relationship between the difference between having a relationship with a girlfriend and having a relationship with God, it's that your girlfriend, you can see her, you can touch her. The difference is that you need to have faith to have a relationship with God, because you know what's the definition of faith?
You can give me your definition.
It's believing something that you can't see.
Does that require faith though? Like, I see belief, like, I think most of the world, like, the way they use the word believe is they're told something and they like trust what they're told and they believe what they're told, and maybe that's kind of what faith is to me. When you're told about God and religions and oh, I have faith that that's the truth. I trust that that's the truth. I believe that. That's one way to believe, which I think is how just about everyone uses the concept of believing. The way I use believing is when there's something I don't know, but I think I kind of have to have a stance on this topic, either to make a decision, like I'm going to Mexico next week, and I've been told it's not that. Like I have different choices. I can go get an Uber or a random taxi, or I can get like a hotel shuttle, like an airport shuttle. I have to decide between these options, and I have to kind of have a stance on how safe Mexico is or how safe these options are. Most people, I think, they'll do what they're told, or anyway, the way I. This is a very simple one, but there's way more complicated things that sometimes I have to take stance on or form an opinion on in order to make decisions. I look at all the evidence that I have, and then I believe, which is, it's a combination of evidence and my feelings and intuition and lots of things, some conscious, some subconscious probably, and I believe whichever I think is most likely. That's how I believe. Most people, I think, believe because of what they're told, and they trust a certain source. I use my intuition, feelings, evidence, and I take it all together, and I kind of believe which I think is most likely. But I choose, for me, it's like I choose what I believe, whereas I think for most people, they kind of choose to believe something they're told.
Yes. Well, I precisely was going to ask you that question. Do you think that you can choose what you can believe?
Why couldn't you?
Huh?
Why wouldn't you be able to?
Why wouldn't? Like, you have the free will to choose to believe whatever you want to believe. Yeah. Like, you don't need to believe in what that person said. Like you said, like you get that piece of information, you evaluate it. You don't need to believe it like right there in that moment. It's just that you just mentioned most people believe this, and before words, exactly, and before words you mentioned many people believe about heaven and hell. And I think that you're definitely on the right path when it comes to getting the information, but if you believing in heaven and hell or not believing in heaven and hell doesn't mean that you can develop a relationship with God.
I personally just take offense to the concept of a God, because fundamentally it's like a male dictator of the universe, right?
Male.
A man, like a male dictator of the universe. Like, if I were to find out that there is especially one singular God who is like, and that this is even putting aside the terrible things that I've experienced, just the concept of one singular male God who is like in charge of all this, putting aside the terrible things I've experienced, putting aside the terrible things going on in the world, even then, just the concept of it to me is, I think that's wrong. Like, if there was one man completely in charge of a country, I think that's even if he's doing a great job, even if he were to be doing a great job at running a country, I think that's still not the way to run a country. I think the way I would run a country is for everyone to work together to run a country. Same with a universe, one God. To me personally, that concept is just
Yes, I understand, but yes, that's a good a good stance, and I understand it. I think I've questioned myself the same thing, and I saw it. Well, yes, I definitely questioned myself things along that line. But don't you think that as a human you have free will?
I mean, yes and no. Fundamentally, yes, but many forces try to make it not so. Try to make you do things you don't want to do. Like for you, your parents were a big reason you ended up at a psychiatrist's office, right? For me, there are also in things that I didn't really want to do. Like I was fighting pretty hard against all of the things that were done to me. So there was less influence on me, perhaps, in various areas. But still, people try to make you do things that they want you to do and that you don't want to do. So there's like infringement upon free will. But fundamentally, I do think everyone has free will. I think.
Yes, because I think free will, like the it's two words. It's free and it's will. And if it's will, then it's you. It's the self. Like it's yourself that has the will to be free.
Do you know the etymology or the origin of the word self?
No. Educate me.
I looked this up like a month ago. Apparently, I think it was a Germanic word. I think it comes from it's like a third person reflective pronoun, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that self essentially refers to how others see you. It's like how third party see you. So when people talk about their self, I think you can also observe a lot of this going on in society. A lot of people care a lot about how others see them. I think that's
Yes.
influencing many people, many people's actions. So when people talk about their self, I think they're talking about how others see them rather than how they see themselves.
What is a word to describe yourself without the opinions of how society sees you?
I've been thinking about it, like internally. I've been saying more like just me rather than myself. So in society and in the English language, you often use the word myself. Like, oh, I like myself. When I don't speak to others, I just speak to me. I did it already. I didn't say I speak to myself. I said I speak to me.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So I try to. I mean, when I'm speaking to others, it's more difficult because if you say, "Oh, I speak to me," or I thought about me.
Okay.
People were like, "Yo, that's incorrect grammar, right? You should be saying I think to myself." Or yeah, but
yes,
so
I understand.
then I tend to use more the word myself just to be able to communicate myself to others without misunderstanding. But when I'm by myself, when I'm alone, I just say I think about me, or I don't use the word as much because I know the origin is how. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So do you think that the me has free will?
Whether I or you has free will?
Yes.
Well, I think I already said that. I think everyone fundamentally does. But
And yes and no. Yes, you did say that.
Others
Say that.
try to make you do things that you don't want to do that they want you to do. And that's how many people try to shape the world. They want the world to be a certain way, and so they try to make others do what they want them to do.
Yes, it's just that the self is connected with other people. The me is connected to you. So I think when you say yes and no, when you say yes, you talk about the me. But when you say no, you talk about the self. Because when you say no, you start talking about your experience being forced. When you say no, you talk about my experience with my parents, right? What I'm trying to arrive at is that the me is the one that can really apply this concept of free will. Because the me is the only one that you can control. Like I cannot control whatever happened with my parents. You cannot control whatever other people did to you. The me, like you said, is the one that does the research and chooses what to believe. So the me doesn't need to believe that there is a heaven and a hell. The me can believe whatever I can believe about God, not what others say, not what the self is compacted with. So I think that people in society, and I don't know about you, are resented with God because such ideas, because such concepts.
What does the word resented mean?
Sorry. Resented is like you are like you have a negative connotation. Like you build this negative connotation about what is God. You can choose whatever you want about God. Like this concept of God is, like you say, is a meal king of the universe. Like, is that true?
I mean, that's the definition of it, no?
Well, I think that's definitely another line of thought. Like, what is God?
I mean, sometimes it's used as, oh, he's a god at basketball, like it means something different, but fundamentally, especially in religion, it's what God is a real dictator of the universe.
Yes, but maybe that's for religion wise. Right? I like that question of like, what is God? It's a very profound question, but when you ask yourself like, what is God, you need to pay attention to the me, not to the self. Like, you need to be very aware of the me in terms of like, what do I really think? What is God? Separated from heaven and hell, separated from even from this concept, like this concept of being a dictator of the universe. It makes sense, but I think that has nothing to do with you. Like, I think that you cannot do nothing about that. Like, it's like as if he is separated, completely separated from you.
I mean, God is not, you are not God, are you? Or at least not the God that people talk about. That'd be funny. If there's all these religions that are all talking about Cai in Puerto Rico.
No, yes, I get it, but yes, I understand that, but I think this line of thought that I want to arrive is that how do you explain that we humans have How do you explain that we humans have consciousness in comparison in comparison to dogs? Like you cannot ask a dog who's God.
Are you implying that dogs don't have consciousness?
No. Dogs do have consciousness, but
Are you
obviously
stating that dogs have consciousness?
I'm stating that dogs have consciousness.
How do you know that?
Science.
Science.
Yes, I've heard. Like
You've heard that dogs have consciousness, that dogs have consciousness? So you believe everything you heard?
A little bit of it.
What do you think? Do you think dogs have consciousness?
Well, we would need to define
dogs
what is...
and gods, it's like almost the same word. For dogs, gods.
We will need to define what is the word consciousness.
I think dogs might be gods to Phyllis, but she really likes dogs. Anyway. Do you think dogs...
Let's focus on humans.
Okay.
What would you think that how do you think that we have consciousness?
What is consciousness?
That is a good question. I think consciousness, well, in my definition of consciousness would be like the awareness, like let's say the gift that we were given to be aware of of the perception that we have upon the world, upon ourselves. So I would, the synonym of consciousness, I would say awareness.
That's pretty... Yeah.
Pretty accurate, right? How could you explain that we have awareness or consciousness?
Do we? Do you have consciousness? It sounds like you are saying that you have consciousness. How do you know that I have consciousness?
I mean, I think that every human has consciousness.
But you don't know, you just think.
No, I'm sorry for saying the word thing. I know that every human has consciousness.
You know that.
In my own definition.
So every human has awareness, is what you said what consciousness is. So you think every human has awareness?
I think every human has awareness, definitely.
What is awareness?
In my definition, awareness would be the ability of having I just want to use the word perception because it makes a lot of sense for me. So I would say like the ability to perceive the world and what goes on in your mind and in the me.
My mind or your mind?
Well, awareness.
Do I even have a mind?
If you have consciousness and if you have awareness, you have a mind.
Do I?
What is a mind?
What is a mind?
Oh, what is a mind?
Yeah, these are all things you can answer for, like, I don't know whether you want to keep thinking for yourself. It's very healthy and great to think for yourself. More people should think for themselves, but I can sort of get to the end of this if you want to.
All right. To get to the absolute end of it, I just think that the me, which has the free will to believe whatever he wants to believe.
Why are you talking about you as from a third person perspective? You're referring to you as him. You're talking about you stating me and him. Why not just say I?
Right. I think that I have the free will to believe in whatever I want to believe, in whatever I feel most comfortable to believe, right? And I mentioned the word faith because I think that faith is very...
Small thing I'd like to, or I would rephrase as, I think I am free to believe, rather than the free will. You can simplify it just by saying, I think I am free to believe.
Thank you.
Can go on.
Thank you. Yes, I think I am free to believe that I can develop a relationship with a higher power in which I can perceive him as whatever I want. And through that faith and belief, I can access something very powerful, which is a gist, a piece, a part of me is higher, and that part of me which is higher is the I. Because I think many people in society are caught up in the self, right? In what others think of me and what I think I am, right? And what I think I am, but if they look within themselves, they can find the me. And the me is pure love. It is not judgment, because judgment is societal concepts. It is not judgment, it is not hatred, it is not anger, it is not sadness, because all of these things are just caused by the experiences that we've had. The root causes of our suffering are because of people. If it weren't for parents, if it weren't for your experiences with people, we wouldn't have been suffering. Like if you lived in a perfect world where people, it's just love, right? It's just love, it's no judgment, it's no nothing. Like, would you have such negative connotations, negative emotions, negative beliefs that you have now?
Can I interpret that as relationships are important?
Relationships are, yes, they are extremely important, but since I know that we need to culminate,
I don't have to, but let's.
All right. From the same line that I was going is that I believe that when you get to the me, apart from every belief which society has conceptualized, you find something very powerful. And I think that power the consciousness that God has gifted to us. So I think that God, at the end of the day, is the ruler of the universe. And I think that He is very generous. Apart from whatever, every concept that is out there, I think He wants to see us thrive. He wants to see us good. So He gives us this part of the consciousness which is transformed into the me. But then you navigate life and you indulge and involve yourself too much on the self. And the self is the product of what we have cultivated and what the things that have happened to us, the emotions that we felt, the reactions to it. It's all surrounded by the self. But the me is completely separate from that. It's completely separate from all the concept for everything that happens to you. And I think when you get to the me, you're like completely present. Because you're not listening to the concepts of your mind. You're just literally completely present. Because you're not listening to this awareness of like, hey, this is me. Hey, my name is Frank. Hey, my name is Kai. This happened to me. You discard absolutely all of that, and you get to the me. I'm still developing that. I'm just very intrigued by philosophical stances like those that I just mentioned. Maybe it's something for the viewers or for yourself or for myself to think about and question. And yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. I haven't told my story like that before, like never, literally. And I really thank you for having me, and I really thank you for the space, for the setup, and for your knowledge as well, and for connecting via X. I really appreciate everything about it.
Awesome, Guy. I'm glad you got something out of it. I'm glad this was good for you. I think it will. I enjoy talking to you as well, and I believe your story will also help others.
Yeah.
And let's go have some food.
Let's get it, brother.